Nuclear power has gained a greater role in the global energy discussion because it's one of the few solutions to increase electricity production without expanding fossil fuel consumption and carbon emissions. Unlike intermittent energy sources like solar and wind power, nuclear power is capable of operating 24/7 to meet baseload demand, more adequately matching the demand of large industries and transportation. And this could speed up the electrification of those sectors. Nuclear power is also the second largest source of low carbon power globally, second only to hydroelectric. The IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, they recently released a report showing that nuclear has comparable amounts of CO2 per kilowatt hour as wind, but much less than solar. And this is an important consideration as countries around the world are enacting policies to meet their climate commitments. Finally, another key benefit of nuclear power is that it's really energy dense. So what that means is that you can generate a large amount of electricity from a very small amount of fuel, creating a lower carbon footprint. Because of this energy density, nuclear power generation is also the most land efficient. It requires 18 to 27 times less land than on-ground solar per unit of electricity. Well, it's actually a common misconception. The volume of nuclear waste is, believe it or not, relatively small. So let's put this in perspective, okay? If you were to line up all the casks that contain nuclear waste generated since the 1950s, they would fit in a single football field up to a height of about 10 yards. And that's according to the US Department of Energy. But that's not all. 96% of spent nuclear fuel by volume can be reused to manufacture new fuel, which will then supply more electricity. Now, this doesn't happen everywhere, but we're already seeing this take place in countries like France. Now, this is in contrast, and this is important, it's in contrast to waste produced by natural gas, coal, or even the waste products made by processing materials which are used in the production of solar panels, many of which are released into the atmosphere. Well, globally, around 32 countries currently use nuclear energy to generate electricity. So I have 3 data points for you. First of all, France is actually leading the way in terms of the proportion of electricity on the grid that's generated by nuclear power. By volume, though, the US is the largest producer, and they have 94 reactors. Now, what's more, Energy Secretary Granholm recently called for the US to add 200 gigawatts of nuclear power to meet the US net zero goals by the year 2050. Now remember, the recently built AP1000 reactors, the ones that were built in Georgia recently, those are in the range of a little over 1 gigawatt. So we're talking about something like 180 to 200 new reactors. And then you have China, who's ramped up new construction with 17 reactors under construction, 70 more planned before 2035, and that's on top of their existing 55 reactors. Now, the rapid adoption by China in the West is also driven by geopolitical imperatives. From China's perspective, accelerating nuclear power production enables them to reduce their dependence on foreign oil, relying instead on places like neighboring Kazakhstan for uranium to drive part of their electricity production. Now, on the other hand, from the West's perspective, growing domestic nuclear capacity will allow us to utilize largely self-contained supply chains for uranium and for the construction of nuclear power plants as we strive to meet net zero goals. This is going to reduce reliance, and this is again quite important, this is going to reduce reliance on solar power in a world where China will control over 80% of global solar manufacturing capacity.